Here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. Witchcraft and everything in between is what the topic is today. We're talking witchcraft. We're talking being a witch. We're talking what does that mean, at least from my perspective. And I'm hoping these questions and me sharing this will help you think about what it means for you to be a witch as well. What does that look like? What is that as an everyday? So let me tell you about myself. My name is Mika. I'm a cottage witch. I practice technically folk magic, an eclectic blend of hearth magic, kitchen magic, um, glamour magic, and if you cross me, a different type of magic. But for the most part, I spend a lot of time, quite frankly, working in the realm of protection magic. So I never have to get to the part where I have to hex or curse someone or something like that. And I feel like I'm really effective at that. So, I've noticed I've got a couple more subscribers. Thank you. And a lot of people have found me. So I want to share a little bit about myself. And I'll be answering, what this video is about, witchcraft. So I am a cottage witch. I'm a practicing cottage witch. I've been practicing witchcraft for, I like to just say over a decade because I didn't always practice it the same way. I didn't even realize I was a witch per se. I started off Wiccan. So I wasn't necessarily using the term witch. I would have said I was Wiccan. Before I was Wiccan, I was definitely in the realm of being an atheist. And before I was an atheist, I was spiritual. And before I was spiritual, I was Christian. And I was Christian because I was taught to be Christian. I was brought up as most of us. It's not like I didn't have an option. Fast forward years later, I gave my kids options though, but I didn't have any options. I was in a household and we were Christian, and that was the end of the story. So, being a cottage witch for me, because how you identify, and it's okay if you don't have a name for yourself, if you don't identify with any particular type of witchcraft, you don't have to. That's more of a modern thing. That's more of a popular thing. Everybody doesn't do that, and that's okay. So for me to be a cottage witch, because I do like to put a frame and a title on how I do, at least for now, I might change in the future. It means it's basically hearth magic. It's keeping the energies in my home balanced. It's drawing from the energies of my home. My home is not just my house where I lay my head at, eat at, and live my days. Um, it's also a place where my home has become kind of a companion in the spells that I cast, the energy, the room that I'm sitting in specifically. I do lots of ritual work. I do a lot of spirit contacting. I do a lot of tarot readings and oracle readings and things of that nature. I'm tapping into my own ancestors, and I'm working with spirits that are not spirits ancestors for someone else. So there's a lot of portal magic taking place in my home, let alone just in this room, because it extends beyond the room. I take it outside. I have touches of magic and things throughout my home because I see my home technically as an altar in itself. I see it as protection. I see it as a place to grow, a place to plant my seedlings, to manifest both in a very physical sense and in the metaphysical sense. Being a cottage witch means I acknowledge the spirits that my home has, the house spirits. I acknowledge the spirit, the energy, the essence that the home has. That once you build a structure on a specific land, and the energy that continues to be raised in that home and to permeate in that home, eventually a spirit is created. This is my belief. And once that spirit is created, you know, ideally you want to acknowledge and work with it. It's not something where I'm sitting there and I'm just looking off into the space or talking to the walls or something like that in my house. I mean, I could, but that's not typically how I go about it. It's more of a vibrational thing for me too. So I'm mindful of the vibrations I'm sending out. If I feel like it's been a lot of negativity, sadness, if I've been in a slump, if I've been feeling sort of off and not my, not how I would like to feel, um, at some point I know, okay, once I get myself together, I need to also manage the energy and the vibrations I've been emitting this whole time in my home. So that's what it's like being a cottage witch at base level. There's a lot of acknowledgement of the structure of my home and then the decor and how I set it up. Some things are just pretty, yes. Other things are very intentional. Most things in my home are intentional. Most things are there because they mean something. There's a spiritual component to it. There's a magical component to it. So I live a magical lifestyle being a cottage witch. When I sit down and I have a meal at my dining table, I'm aware of what I've done to have that specific dining room table. Literally every time I manifested that table, I wanted a farmhouse long rectangle table. I wanted that particular item with the bench. I wanted that look really bad. I wanted that table. And I finally was able to get that table. I used to have like the bar stool table years ago. And it was the kind with the extender in the middle. So it sat 8 people. It was a very large table. And I had that for years and it served my family well. But at some point I wanted a new one and I didn't want anything cheap. So, I wanted something nice and heavy, solid. So I manifested it and I was able to find what I had been seeing in my mind's eye once I actually moved here, because if you don't know, I moved to Arizona from South Florida, and I pretty much sold everything I had to make room for all the new stuff, including this home I sit in. I manifested this home as well. So when you are so intentional on how you live your life, when you have a magical lifestyle, the items, to the just the casual observer, what are you talking about? It's just a table. For me, it's more than just a table. Everything was curated for the most part by me using magic and money. And that money coming in and those resources to get the money, that's all me, the magic. So that's a little bit about me. I'm someone who is intentional about my home decor. So when I show you and when I begin to show more of my cottage witch lifestyle here on YouTube, because that's been my intention for 2024 to share a little bit more about that, you'll kind of understand why. Now I want to get into another topic, kind of still with this in mind. I shared that for a reason. So as a cottage witch, specifically someone with melanated skin as a cottage witch, is a Black American woman. When I tell someone I'm a cottage witch, most of the time people are like, okay, so like you do stuff in the house, like house magic, like what does that mean? And then, brief explanation. If they understand the concept of kitchen witch, hearth witch, or even just a house witch, then you can get the concept of a cottage witch. Um, with that being said, when I start to get in subgroups, and that's a conversation, I have walked away with no one has specifically said this to my face, but it has been implied in different circles that I've been in. Over the years, it's not like a recent thing, that as a melanated Black American woman, at calling myself that, or a witch in general, is sort of look looked down on a little bit. Not because, well, I mean, I think it's a throw. I do think it has something to do with um, Christianity and people's holding on to the dogma of that, even though they're practicing other things. But the people that I've had these interactions with, I have noticed they're usually someone who are either following an ATR, or they call themselves some sort of hoodoo practitioner. I have not really come across anyone who specifically says they practice voodoo um, and have said that. I mean, maybe they didn't, I didn't know. But the point is, it's usually that. So there's usually this divide, I notice, when I've had these interactions, because the idea that I'm calling myself a witch means I'm somehow not in tune with being of African descent, and I'm doing something of the European. I'm doing, I'm basically not being black enough, even in a magical sense, even in a pagan sense, even in the spiritual sense. So, one, I don't care. I mean, let's just, it's me. I don't care. Two, let me be clear, but I do want to address it, and I want to just talk about it a little bit in case you're someone who looks like me and you are trying to wrap your mind around the concept of cottage, which is that like a European based thing. No, it's not. And to take it a step further, naming your witchcraft and things like that, that's more of a modern way of doing things. To be perfectly honest, what I do is what your great grandmom did, is what her people did before that, before colonization and so forth. The keepers, of your home, of your space, of your domain. There was just things that were just part of lifestyle. It wasn't religion. It was just part of lifestyle. On how, setting up altars, cleaning the altar spaces in the home, casting spells, understanding Fey-like energy. So if we're talking those of African descent and on that land, it's not that the Fae don't exist. It's just good. It's a language thing. It's just going to be a different concepts. But actually, there are stories about the Fae in that part of the world as well. So there's acknowledgement of that. There's acknowledgement of spirit in general, spirits in general. Um, whether it's ancestors in the home, leaving something out for them, and just all this activity, but it's happening within a home, and there's the keeper, so to speak, of the home. Now, I'm not speaking gender roles and all that sort of stuff. Notice I'm just being very high level keeper of the home. It could be multiple people, it could be the whole household having this mindset in the house. I'm just doing the 2024, the modern version of that. And I'm giving myself a more modern name of cottage, which I also live in a cottage, by the way, so it kind of fits. um, but yeah, it's just a modern version, but it's ultimately what a lot of us just refer to as folk magic. A lot of things I do, whether it's combining a lot of herbal remedies for the basis of aromatherapy, for the basis of actually a tincture, a tonic, a tea. 9 times out of 10, it's a tea for me, because it's a little bit, quite frankly, a low energy, startup, and I get a big reward from it, even if it's just something physical or spiritual or a combination of both. Um, Even the things I use on my skin, natural oils and herb concoctions and things of that nature. All of this is blessed, enchanted, and so forth. um Grown, I have a lot of greenery in my home as well. They have their own spirits. This is not uncommon among those who practice other, African based type religions. I don't even want to say religion, spirituality. It is very common to have respect, reverence for plant life, nature, and things like that. So I do that as well as a cottage witch. I use my mirrors in my home as a portal. A lot of people understand that. So you'll hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you should cover them. If you have a mirror in your bedroom or something like that, when not in use, that sort of stuff." So I'm just high level here talking about, the way I practice. I'm very in touch with I want to say my ancestral line, because I work with my ancestors. So this goes into the next conversation. So in those dialogues where I can feel like there's a certain judginess, or people just think I'm I don't I'm ignorant, for lack of better words, not in a bad way, but like I'm ignorant to um, what things really are, and not being, I guess, like I said, in touch enough with my roots. And here's where it gets crazy, because I'm someone who works with my ancestors quite often. Actually, I'm doing a monthly activity with my coven where we're doing some ancestral type work, a very intentional practice. So, with that being said, I work with my ancestors quite often. As an activity and on my own, and they contact me at will. So, and when I need help, when I'm in a space of gratitude, whatever my deal is, I reach out to my ancestors. So that's not an uncommon practice. So if I'm telling you I reach out to my ancestors make up a lot. and it's the collective, it's an energy, it's a frequency, it's a vibration, not just a person. So don't you think they tell me what I'm don't you think they would tell me if I need to be doing something? Don't you think they would advise me and guide me on something else? I've not been advised or guided to become initiated into any sort of practice. I don't feel that's on my heart. Things can change, but I don't feel that. I feel like I am actually growing and I believe they're proud of how I've grown as a spiritualist, as a practitioner, as an occultist, as a witch. I I really do feel a sense of pride. I feel like they are continuously guiding me. And then there's my higher self, my intuition, which magnifies my ancestors. It's the best of everybody, all in one. That's my higher self, and I'm in tune with that energy, and that energy is um, constantly guiding me, redirecting, and so forth. But it's never been out of a place of you're not African enough or to seek. I've been on a spiritual journey since I was in my 20s. I've been on a spiritual since, and I'm almost, I'm not my 20s. I have been on this journey. I have spent, and I'm an avid reader. I have taken formal college courses on religion, more than one course. I have done separate reading. I have been fortunate enough to be in a space where men who were at the time, many decades older than me, were able to uh, who were authors of books, a lot of popular books you might see now. I've had access to those actual authors and the guidance that I was able to get from that, and obviously some women too. But I say that because there was a specific time. It was these learned men, these older, much older than me, like in their 70s and 80s. I was like in my 20s, and I worked with this organization, and I had access to these authors. So I was able to collect some information. I was welcomed to ask questions because I was also on a quest of understanding what it who are we? Who am I as a Black American person outside of this? Where before ancestral DNA, I was just trying to just get some foundational understanding about my ancestral line. Um, and a lot of things are put in my path. I truly believe I was divinely guided the entire time because that level of education helped me to finally diminish the ongoing chokehold that Christianity still had on me. I was able to really diminish most of that because of the more information that I learned. Now, a lot of people would have thought some of these people were real hotep type situation, and low key maybe it was, but guess what? I took what I needed from that experience, which was facts and truth, and I was able to begin. That helped to help with the concept of expanding my mind and seeing beyond what I've been taught and what I knew. So, being a cottage witch and being a Black person doesn't mean I'm not African enough. I mean, I'm not African. I'm of African descent, but I can't, I mean, well, because of ancestral DNA, I can give you an idea of where I'm from, but I'm a combination of a lot of things for obvious reasons. And then, as a common thing that most Black Americans have is at least 20% European descent, and you know why. I'm ranging about 20, smooth 25 at this point, but by smooth 25, it changes, but we seem to be in that number of European descent. So, those are my ancestors as well. And here's the thing: I believe to get to the ancestral realm, there's a certain amount of work that the spirit has to do. So if they're part of that collective, then I'm being divinely guided by the collective of that all that ancestral energy. And so far, I haven't been guided to seek out anything beyond what I'm doing, if that makes any sense. Specifically as an ATR or African spiritual ways, outside of what has been put into my path that I've already adopted. I realize that a lot of things I do probably looks like someone who practices hoodoo, especially when I start doing root work. It looks very similar, but I think that's not just even okay. I think that makes sense because of my ties here, so I'm using it all. I'm just, I guess, for lack of better words, I rebranded it as cottage witchery for myself. I didn't brand the word, but cottage witchery for myself. Okay, so now that I got the sour and the sweet and all that out of the way, um, being a modern witch, cottage witch for that matter, um, there is this space that I'm constantly in where I feel like I want to do big magic and I want to change the world. I'm fully aware of the fact that it's better to do that in a collective state because you can have a bigger impact. But I still do my spells. I send out my energy into the world because I'd love for it to be better. I there's just ongoing, strife, conflict, violence, hate, and I really want to be I really want to wrap that up. However, I understand the complexity of humans, and there's just so much to us. Who are you? Your mental your mental state, your emotional state, who raised you, trauma, all that. There's so many things that influence people, and then their will, and then we have billions of that floating around. So here we go. You're going to have a society, and then these micro societies and things of that nature, and it doesn't all get along. And then we still have um, those of us, not us, not me, but those who still have a colonizer spirit. It just never left. That Roman spirit never left. So those people are still very much in existence, and it's their due diligence to make sure that they stay here, and only they stay here and their families. So, um, and there's a strong, and here's the thing: you're not, as a witch, a modern witch, just fighting that. You're fighting the people around you who are down here with you, who have this idea that one day they might be here. So they don't want to disparage or talk bad or bring down capitalism, these colonizer mindset folk who've been controlling for centuries just the power in the world where in ways of money, land, thing, and resources. So it's this, you're not just fighting them, you're also fighting people right there next to you because they have this idea that one day they're going to be rich and they don't want to ruin anything because they could be rich one day. And that's a really effed up thing, by the way. So I'm fighting the will of many through magic. Oh, it's exhausting. So it does feel like, I just sent out this little spark into this darkness, and the darkness just ate it up. That's what it sometimes feels like when I cast spells. I do it anyway because I believe there's other witches just like me, and enough of us do it. Eventually that spark is going to catch this one and catch this one, and it's going to make a bigger impact in this otherwise dark space. Um, but yeah, as it relates to just the way of the world and things that are occurring. I'd love to make a difference. I would love to do more. And I do as much as I can. But I've said this and I'm going to say this again. As a practicing witch, I cast spells. I do things like that to help those that, are being killed right now, violence is being enacted upon them. And it seems like not a lot of support elsewhere. And that's not even just one group of people. And that's the sad thing, y'all. I'm not even talking about one group. I'm talking about here in this country. I'm talking about overseas. I'm talking about across this globe. Sadly, this applies to that many people. That's really messed up. But um, ultimately, the mundane choices that I do have is because everything has to do with money. Money and race. That's just the way. I love when people say, "Why is everything about race?" Because if it's about money, 9 times out of 10, it's going to also be about race. But anyway, I digress. As someone who has a choice on how I can spend my money for now, I choose not to spend at certain places because that's me sticking it to them. I'm one less person. I know there's other people out here doing the same thing, and we are making a difference. If you've been on the fence about that, listen to me. You're seeing people are corporations are reporting um, their lack of growth. um, And it's stunning how much just a bunch of us will do, can do to help toward that. So yeah, divest, hold your money, and then you know what, speak over your money so that it doesn't fall in the hands of those people, you know and whatever that looks like. Now, it's a heck of a balance because there are companies that I still purchase from who I don't really know what their ties are politically, but I know some of the stuff they're doing. There are issues around unions and things like that that is really harmful and negative. Um, but like I said, where you can, because sometimes we can't skip certain places because that might be all you have access to, right? So within your means, within your, what you can do, what you personally can do, as witches, that's something we can do. We can cast those spells, and we can make mundane choices to not spend and not support these corporations, right? Um, so that's that part. And I bring that up because I know there's been some shocking revelations over these months for people to see that people, their favorite content creator, their favorite celebrity, their favorite, whoever they're watching, on their phone or computer, TV, or whatever the situation is, really has, not said anything about anything that's going on in the world. Um, and a lot of people are disappointed. I have spoken about it several times. I don't have a problem speaking on it and telling you my stance. My stance is, if you want to make an impact, watch where you're spending your money. That's the key. Yes, we can go stand out somewhere. We can boycott, as far as like, well, I am talking about boycotting, but we can also, people protest, people physically gather together to make an impact, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, I know for a fact money talks, though. Keep holding back your money. Keep not supporting these businesses, and that's where the impact is made the most. That is where the impact is made. Anyway, I digress. Let me move forward with my talk. So there's that. Just a little bit of the political and a little bit of the humanity talk as far as being a witch, a modern witch. The other thing is being out of the broom closet. So obviously, I tell people I'm a witch. I have a website with my face on it. I'm here. I'm talking. I'm repeatedly saying I'm a witch. So I'm out of the broom closet. I've been out of the. I don't even know. I can't even tell you when. You know what? It's because I didn't make a grand announcement on social media. I didn't go around telling anybody. I didn't dress a certain way, so people would just start asking questions. I didn't do those things, so no one. I'm also from a generation. That's just we don't do that. It's not a thing. I'm sorry. Very much Gen X here. That's just, I don't know. That just feels weird to do that. What do they say now? Cringe. That'd be cringe to do that. No offense to those people who have, but I'm just saying, for me, that just feels weird. So I've never done that. For those people, over time, over the years, I've just began to just open up and share more, and then I might have actually referred to myself as a witch. Otherwise, I just talk about my practices, talk about dreams, talk about tarot cards, things like that. Oh, I'm doing a new moon ritual, and it just is what it is, right? And eventually, people just put two and two together and figured, oh, that's okay. But I've never been shy about it, or hid from it, or denied it. There is power in that, by the way. And I know everybody has a different situation. You can't tell certain people. And if you do, it becomes a discussion or an argument. And you have people in your life who really believe you worship the devil, even if unknowingly. And I totally understand that. And sometimes you don't want to hear it. You came to the family gathering. You didn't come to talk about this sort of stuff. So listen, I get it. The advantage I've had is that I moved away from my family. So I didn't have a lot of those. I miss all those awkward situations. It just didn't occur because I wasn't physically in a space with them majority of the time outside of visits. And it's like, if you waiting until I come back to Jersey to do, like, first of all, why do you care? Okay, first of all, me, the way I'm set up, I'm thinking, why do you care? Why do you care so much? Like, what are you getting out of this? Telling me this? Because before I even go back and forth about the merits of anything, what is your interest in this? And if you come hit me with some, saving your soul, well, that's between me and your God, right? Pray about it. Thoughts and prayers. Anyway, now let me stop. I'm being mean. But but now you get an idea why maybe nobody is going to come up and say anything to me. I've actually had, seriously though, I have had relatives figure out what I do. They were last on the list and they have responded that way. So I'm not coming out of left field with that. But again, I'm like, why do you care? Also, if you keep going, I'm gonna come at you about your life, the way you live your life, and I'm gonna come back. Like I'll just come back. I'll just come back. We'll just leave it there. I'll retaliate. I don't look for things. I am not a confrontational type of person. I'm actually really not. I really don't like confrontation. But if you start it, I'm gonna finish it. I'm definitely gonna finish it. And that Scorpio rising is gonna finish it with finesse, relentlessly so. Anyway, but yeah. So being out of the broom closet, being so open, there's power in that for me. There is because I don't have to hide anything. It's right here, and it makes practicing easier for me. I don't have to put away anything when I'm done in my home. I just talk. My home is my altar, so to speak. I don't worry about neighbors. I don't worry about, not really. I really don't, on what they think. If they did, I would say, hey, yeah, go to leaptaken.com, check out the services that I offer. That's what I would say. If they really were asking me questions, I really would. But so far, nothing like that has happened. And quite frankly, I think that a lot of people, we're in a world now. Depending on where I live. I live in a pretty, it's the Phoenix area. People are not like, it's not in a rural setting in the middle of nowhere where more people might be a little bit put off and it might be a little bit more concerning. So I just don't think that's a problem because of just where I've been living as well. And I own that. So there's obviously some privilege that I have for being out and about and wearing my T-shirts that say "I am a witch." I'm a real witch. I have a shirt that says "I am a real witch." Some people think it's humorous. I do think it's humorous, but I'm also a real witch. Um, and I don't mind. I wear crystal jewelry and things like that. Yeah, people get that vibe. They'll at least think I'm new age, and people, that's become more acceptable. So, like I said, there is power in being able to just express myself openly as a witch and without having to be covert and cover things out and keep this mystery so nobody really finds out the truth. I can live out loud. And with that, because I get to live out loud as a witch, I get to do what I love for a living, write about witches, help other witches. Mentor other witches, talk to people, even if they don't refer to themselves as witch, and be, the witch that can help them heal, help them discover something, help them work out some problems and situations as a reader. So I get to live my life as a witch publicly, and that's really awesome for me, and I love that for me. I do. And if you are doing the same thing, isn't it freeing? Isn't it like that's something I don't have to worry about? And then finally, being a witch, being a modern witch, I'm someone who is reaching a different chapter of life. It's loading next month. Is my birthday, and it's one of those milestone birthdays. So uh, being a witch has taught me and helped me and guided me through the concepts of mortality in general, because it's not even just about me. I have people in my life that I love as well, and death and the cycle of birth and death and all of that sort of stuff. And my psyche has come to a place, and this has been a process of not fearing death because it's inevitable. So what are we fearing? Also, working with ancestors, talking to the dead, having the spirits, recently deceased people visit you and talk to you and tell you things that actually check out in the living world. Yeah, you kind of start to wrap your mind around the idea of death, and it's not so scary anymore. It's just different. It's just a different consciousness. But being a witch has introduced me to consciousness, vibrations, understanding more about science and spirituality, and how there is this not just yeah, overlap essentially. What people have decided to call something else, whether it's quantum theory, quantum physics, whether it's you're talking about dark matter, dark energy, and understanding from a spiritual point of view. We may be referencing those things as something else, like spirit, essence, vibration, the ether, that sort of thing, the universe. Um, there is energy, there is consciousness. It's not just, and yeah, being a witch is understanding there's a consciousness to certain things. It may not be the way human consciousness works, but nevertheless it still is. So when people reference the universe and things like that as having a consciousness, having um, wants, needs, desires, that you can tap into as well to get your wants and needs and desires. Um, that there might be some sort of goal, or it just is. The consciousness just is. It's not a want, need, or anything like that. It just is, exists. It is, and tapping into the consciousness um, for whatever you're trying to do. Um, Being a witch has helped me to think like that and to expand my mind in that way. In doing so, I understand law of attraction, the concepts of manifesting in a way that goes a lot deeper than if you're just, if you're not someone who calls yourself a witch or a practitioner. For what I mean, people who just, they go to the vision board parties and they they want to manifest, they do the worksheets, they take the courses, but that's as woo woo as it gets. um, just the concept of universe and manifesting and law of attraction and stuff like that, which is great, and you can do some wonderful things with that, by the way, so I'm not diminishing that, but what I am saying is I understand the larger meaning behind all of that, so it's never just that for me. There's always more nuance. I mean, I'm working with a deity. See, it changes. I might be working with a deity. I might be working with my house spirits. I might be working with the spirit of my home and trying to generate a certain type of energy to put into the ethers for the purpose of attraction and things like that. So that's taking it a step beyond just the high level manifesting and law of attraction that a lot of people talk about. Um, just my mind has been expanded and continues to expand. I read so much. I really have been thinking about this lately, how much I read, because I'm trying to quantify things with my daily my goals planner, and I'm it's just amazing to me how much information I absorb. Now, some of it, quite frankly, is nonsense. I'll read certain books. I'll watch other people's YouTube channels and things like that, or like a long form TikTok, and they're talking spiritual topics or things like that. And some of it, I can take from that, or they'll reference something, a book or another resource I get to read about. Um, but because I am so open and so willing to constantly learn more, because I always feel like there's more to learn. I don't know everything. None of us do. So there's always more to learn, and I love reading, and I love that's why I do Fridays, and I'm rely heavily on books for my witchy review because I enjoy reading. I love learning something new, even through fiction. You can learn different things. I always talk about, especially if it's a witchy book, and they're talking rituals or spells within a book. I always like to share that because you can take that. Um, Pop culture magic is a real thing. You can use that in your own work, or you can maybe take it as is, but you're going to add your energy signature to it, your essence, your will, your intent, your power, and then it becomes something that's actually very real. Um, yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. I'm really a fan of doing stuff like that. But yeah, my mind has continuously have been expanded. And that's one thing I find is similar to a lot of us, especially older witches, is that because the ones I come across anyway, because we are so open, because we are accepting of new information, we'll take what we need, and we might put the other stuff back on the shelf and come back to it if we need it. But we don't necessarily immediately turn down new information. Most of us are really open, and I notice people who are spiritualists, occultists, magical practitioners, witches, whatever, pagan, essentially. A lot of us, especially older ones, because I bring this up because a lot of times, unfortunately, there are people who they get older and actually they seem a little bit more closed off to new information. They know what they know. They kind of don't like when people start changing and doing different things. But I have noticed that people who are on a more spiritual type path, that's usually not the approach. And when I mean older people, I'm talking like people, I've met people well into their 60s and their 70s, over the years, who you can definitely see they've kept their presence of mind because they're always open to new information, meeting new people who might have something new to offer. Um, I know the concept of there's nothing new under the sun, just somebody new, just someone new, or whatever, however it goes. And I think there's some truth into that. But me, we don't know everything under the sun. We know a good amount, but we'd have to live a lot longer to know it all, right? And we don't, as of now, get that type of time on this planet to know it all. So soak up as much as you can, while you can, right? And that's kind of, I feel like, the attitude that a lot of us have that are a little bit more older. And when I mean older, I'm talking about just over 40 people. I mean, that's the older I'm talking about. But I'm also constantly surprised at the people who are much younger than me, someone who's only like 20 years old, and they're able to provide so much information, and I can learn from them too. Especially here on YouTube, you'll see somebody in their 20s, and they're, having these spiritual downloads, and they're talking through things and sharing their information. And they'll tell you, listen, they'll tell you they've been practicing for 5 years. All right, you've been practicing for 5 years. Cool, cool, cool. But what I will tell you is, there's still something to be learned from them because of their that energy, that youthful energy. A lot of times they can go a little bit harder on the topic. They have, they can absorb. They're still growing. Everything isn't altogether grown until what they say about 25. So they're still very much sponge brain. So they're still, soaking it all up. So they can still go probably a little bit quicker, a little bit more, and you really can learn from them. And I love that. I love being a witch because it has brought me to this level of expansion and just being so open. And another thing I want to talk about, being a modern witch, in today's world where people, LGBTQ community, um, I'm a heterosexual. I keep trying to question myself because I feel like it'd just be easier if I wasn't. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. For my close friends know, I went through a phase. I was like, I keep trying to be gay, and one day, someone very close to me said, "Well, the part that you keep saying trying is, he, if you're gay, you don't have to try." I was like, "All right, fair. That's fair." Um, because at the time, men just got on my nerves. So I was like, I think it would be easier for me, and it probably would be. But digress. Oh, the body wants what it wants. The mind, anyway. So, yeah. But all that aside, you are someone who, if you were brought up with the Abrahamic religions, even if it was just high level, because some people don't have families that went to church all the time, but they still participate in the overall beliefs, especially when you talk about somebody being gay or trans or anything like that. Like, they all of a sudden, they'll do all these other things. They're free thinking about a lot of things except for that. So, because of the way I practice, because I understand duality, energies, masculine, feminine, not in a small way that is taught to people through Abrahamic beliefs. You know, I I don't have the bias. I don't have that. I don't have any of that. I don't have this thing, and I don't have any bias against. anyone who is in that, the LGBTQ community. I don't have I don't have anything. Like, I don't have any prejudice, bias. I don't have any concerns. I don't have any, as far as like there's this, well, what about the children? Like, what do you mean what about the children? The children be gay. Like, y'all stop. The children be gay. How do you think they got here? But I digress. Again, just that this is expanding on the topic of just being more open minded, um, and what that means, and just different relationships, understanding everyone's just not, a two partner relationship, under the concepts of just sexuality in general. I talk about sex magic. I talk about the benefits when you're talking about manifesting and all of that sort of stuff. How sex magic can be an integral part of manifesting those bigger life things, specifically because the type of energy that is raised through sexual activity it's like divine like, and you can use that for the purposes of manifesting or bringing, attracting, or changing your entire life. Okay. um, so yeah, since I've already am on that, then yeah, of course, the concept of sexuality and what that means and all of that sort of stuff. Like, there's just no judgment with me with that. Someone actually asked me, so I guess just anything goes, huh? And I was like, well, what do you mean anything goes? I'm like, I mean, if that's what you want, it's up to the person with consent. If yeah, um, like, what are you supposed to say to that? What is that? Yes, anything goes. So people could just do whatever they want. Yes, people can do whatever they want. Of course, I don't feel like you should have to say, as long as it doesn't harm anyone, as long as it's with consent, as long as it's with consenting adults. I mean, I'm thinking that's the norm, but I realize sometimes when you're talking to people, they don't. I don't know, but you know what? When I have those conversations with somebody, and unfortunately, I've had multiple conversations with some people who kind of think like that. They were never women. I'm gonna tell you that right now. But anyway, moving on. I always think, well, what are you trying to get into? Because when you keep, it's kind of how when I see these politicians go hard about anti-gay legislation and all that sort of stuff, and it's like they're in a club. They're secretly gay. They're secret. It's so obvious. Why are you going this hard? You're always secretly gay. It's never a case where they're not. Moving on from that, my tangents, and also if you're just getting to know me and watching my channel, I take these tangents. I don't plan them. I never know where I'm going to go with it. But here I come back. I do come back from it. I do come back. Oh gosh. But anyway, without this video getting too long, I just wanted to have a sit down and tell you a little bit about myself, being a modern witch, being a cottage witch. We got a little bit into politics and my thoughts on it. If you didn't know, now you know. I am a believer that money has currency. Money, you can tell your money what to do. You can attract money, you can bring it in, and you can withhold that money from certain things because there is magical properties and power in doing that. Remember that, please. When someone's telling you there's nothing you can't, oh, it's not making a difference. People say that because a lot of people are lazy. A lot of people don't want to think um, beyond what they know. And usually those are not witches. If you notice, those are usually people who don't refer to themselves as a witch or a cultist or anything in that category. That's usually not them. Because I have found, and if you're watching this, I'm pretty sure you have too, that people who are practitioners of sorts, somewhere in this magical realm, there is just a certain openness for the most part. People do have biases, don't get me wrong, because I have been in situations, it hasn't been recent, but this is many years ago. I'm not living in a state. I have people were because of my race being prejudiced, which is prejudice, and the conversation being, I mean, can we have anything? Do they have to always be in something? And I'm like, okay, all right, cool, cool. So listen, I have experienced the ugly, so I do understand. Those were isolated situations for the most part. I haven't really had any other situations like that ever happen since then. Most people that I find that are in our community, because if you're watching this, I'm just putting you in it, in our community, I find most people are open. Do again, people do will have their bias. And listen, I say this a lot of times, most of us are familiar with shadow work. And quite frankly, if you point it out to them, if hopefully they're open, they're in a space where they can hear you. Usually, you can get past that. And you're just, being direct, as much as you can, just let them know, hey, do you know what you're doing, how I'm feeling because you're doing this? And, most people, even, it may not be an immediate change in that moment, but trust me, it stayed with them. I have noticed that people in this community, but if they're legit anyway, let me rephrase that. If they're legit, I'm talking about actual people who probably have done some shadow work, who are at least familiar with the concept. I am not talking about like those light and love type witches. It's just, toxic positivity. It's just about crystals and that's it. I'm not talking about those people, right? Okay, good. Okay, so thank you for listening to me. Thank you for watching. And let me know in the comments, if you have any questions or anything like that. As far as being out of the broom closet, as far as being a witch, casting spells for social activism, and for trying to make a dent into this machine of capitalism. Walking away from religion and things like that, redefining what your spirituality looks like, and calling yourself a witch. Yeah, let me know your thoughts as well. Please hit like, it helps. Subscribe if you haven't, and if you would like to, hit the join button. That's also very helpful, supports my budding YouTube channel. And there are perks. And also head over to my website at leaptaken.com. I do offer some different services, tarot readings, and things of that nature. Monthly moon reading as well. And I'm always trying to expand or do something different. So go ahead and check that out as well. All right. Thanks again. Bye.